All right, then this thing go on. This is Mona. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I am Dr. Joyce Higginbotham, and I'd like to give my. I sent you emails. Did you get them? Well, you're not on my list. I just sent what was on my list. So probably what I should ask for is a telephone number and email address, because I want to make a listserv so I can send some things out to people. I'm sorry I didn't ask for it on the first round. But this is children learning math, and we are here to investigate some of the characteristics of learning and how children learn. I don't know how many people are aware that there's a course outline. Everybody has a course outline? No. Everyone? No? Okay, so that is something that, I don't know if it's on Orville. I don't know if anybody plays it on Orville. Yes. So the thing is that we have the course outline, and I just want to say that I taught this course last semester with all face-to-face. I'm challenged by these things, but I have right here. So we call it the Geek Squad. Part of the Geek Squad is here. So, and I expect that your career goal is to teach high school and beyond. Is that it? Okay. So so probably Bermuda. Bermuda. Is that Bermuda?
Yes.
Can you tell us something about yourself, please?
All right. I just graduated from college in the U.S., Rhode Island. I studied architectural engineering, very much into design and technology. I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I have 2 nieces and a nephew, 20, 17, and 16 years of age. So I played a major role in raising kids my whole life, and I'm looking forward to learning how to teach them, I guess.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Anybody else want to jump in? Where is St. Lucia? St. Lucia?
We're here.
Yes.
We're here.
Can you tell me something about
But we can't see you.
All right.
We cannot see you.
Can you sign out and sign back in without quarantine? Just ask technical person to sign out and sign back in.
Okay, you could tell us about yourself around the table.
Okay. You know my name, Alice. I studied at UWI. I studied mathematics at Cairn of Life Sciences.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get a teaching diploma. I think teaching is something I may enjoy. I hope I enjoy it. I just started teaching. And so I'm just looking to equip myself so I can job as a job at it, and so I'll be qualified in what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. So you're actually in a classroom now?
No.
Okay. No.
No, yes, I
Yeah, okay. All right. The next person.
Hi everyone. My name is Nadia Parkinson, and I studied economics.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I do economics. I was recently employed a month ago at Social Security College. Around the research and institutional development. Something I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Was in being in an organization like that, I had to equip myself with a background on
that methodology.
Yeah, and all of that. Yeah, because they'll be talking and I have no idea what they're talking. That's what I mean.
Yes. Yes.
My name is Corey.
actually teacher of the Manchester College Education.
Yeah.
I do program experimental college.
Yeah.
And so it's the teacher of the Grantland Estate.
At the what?
Grantland Estate.
Yes, I know. Both of you are plant crafters.
Right.
And you?
I just have one question. Is this just for secondary or secondary and tertiary?
Well, they do not do. It's the thing about it is methodology is applicable throughout because we are functioning with soon to be published standard-based curriculum, and that sort of applies across the board because the emphasis for learning is other than procedural understanding, which is critical because everything boils down to procedure. But the thing is that you need conceptual understanding because it's not only to say you're going to be able to pass this exam or provide the right answer, but it has to do with mathematical literacy, which has to do with how you function as a citizen, how you handle social phenomena, all that kind of thing is involved in knowing what to do. So it should have wide application across different areas. So the thing is that, for instance, if we decide that chicken is too expensive, right, we should be able to form an extensive process that might bring the people who are selling it to their knees and say, that a kind of protest. But it doesn't have to be every day. Probably we decide that every other week we are going to eat veggies and buy no chicken, so they eat it themselves. And very soon, yes. So you have to find the power of numbers, and you have to be able to do those kinds of things. When courts say 0 down, you have to ask a whole set of other questions for 0 down, because it's not your mommy and it's not your daddy. They're not leaving your legacy. They are going to get their pound of flesh. And so therefore, that's the kind of application we're looking for, because we should be able to have some real life examples as to how to do different things and live effectively in the society. So the math literacy and math knowledge are kind of a little bit different. Math knowledge, probably you can solve a quadratic equation, but how does that apply? When you solve a quadratic equation and you say such and such an expression is greater than 0, can you show me a picture of it? Can you tell me what is happening by looking at the picture? If there's everybody is comfortable with a quadratic equation, right? And if part of it goes below the line, then that is not a part of the solution, because I want the intervals in which they are greater than 0. So if I have something like a minimum, like so, right? I do not want the interval in between here and I want what's out here, because I want the solution to be greater than 0. So people have to understand that kind of thing and knows about the application for different things. So if you look at the course outline, you see some things that we're going to be talking about. When you're finished with this course, you should be able to identify factors associated with learning and to explore the particular demands of learning mathematics, both on the student and on the teacher. You guys should be able to demonstrate an understanding of the models of learning as they relate to the learning of mathematics, and use diagnostic teaching skills as a means of facilitating learning. Because sometimes I notice that teachers, will present a topic in a very abstract manner, do a couple problems on the board, and say, now, they do not speak, they come in, they set up the board, they turn around, they say good morning or good afternoon, as the case may be, and then they go on to say the topic is this, or in primary school they sing a song and do a little dance and say guess what it is, okay? And then from there you go to modeling some problems on the board, 2 or 3, and do the next 5. We're moving away from that kind of model right now. We are to develop a new strategies for developing children's understanding in mathematics. So the 3 basic components of the course is to provide a written assignment not exceeding 3,000 words for 30%. And that is to do some research on the learning theories for mathematics. They have named some, and we have to decide on, you know, I think that people could really choose, say, 4, and construct it in as to be a part of it. Then you would do some reporting on it so we can get a wider scope of what is out there in terms of the research. Then there is to be a journal-based project that has to do with an intervention. Now you are at schools already, and you said that you are at Clancarty, which is like off South Camp Roadway. Okay, at Dinner Road. I went there to look at a teacher already, so I think I know where that is. But the thing is that this calls for an intervention with one child that you will tutor. The child will be selected probably based on teacher intervention. And I don't know if, since you're already in a school, anybody else in a school? Are you in a school? Are you in a school? Yeah. 3 are in a school. So we're going to depend on you to see if you can introduce us to a venue where we could get a child to tutor.
Well, I'm at Excelsior Community College, so most I don't know.
Yes.
Now, children, would that be okay?
I don't know. They said a child. I don't know. But anyway, probably with you 2 being at Clancarty, probably you could get, I could come there and speak, because last semester I went to Mona and I got them to cooperate by providing some 7th graders. Why it was convenient for 7th graders, because they had just come in, and so they had a diagnostic test. And so we could establish a baseline from that. We're going to talk about characteristics of a good intervention before the day is over, before the class is over. And then you are to make a presentation on the project. So you have to keep a journal while you are working with the intervention with the child.
So how long is it to be?
Well, that's what we're talking about. They last semester asked for like 6 sessions, with, like 1 hour each. But I had to go through writing a letter to the school, and they would get in touch with the parents and that kind of a thing, because it's after school. It should not interrupt their school day because of the fact that it's a one-to-one situation. So if you were to take a child out of class, they would be missing what was going on during the day. That is worth 50% of the course. So it has to be well documented. It has to be, it has to have some integrity, and it has to have some positive results for both people, for the teacher and for the student. The student should be helped in an area where there is indicated weaknesses, and with those times, we address those head on, and we make evaluations as we go through, and all that will be in the journal. And I know teachers do not like to write lesson plans, but those are included You cannot be effective if you do not do a lot of what I call the pre-active phase of teaching, because you have to talk about a number of things. You have to talk about the what and the how and the prerequisite and the task analyses, and you have to have what I call an authentic evaluation. It's not that, 50% of the kids or 60% of the kids students, did what they were supposed to do and it was a grand success. But if 70% or 80%, there's 20% that you, by your own words, are saying that they have not met the mark. And those students need to be included in your plan. St. Lucia is up now. Welcome, St. Lucia. I can see some of what's going on in that classroom. And then you will have to present your project. You have to present it. You have to talk about it. Last semester, some of the more interesting ones, at Mona High School, there was a student with autism because they sent children with some challenges to Mona down the road, high school. And it was a wealth of knowledge that she gained far beyond just the academics. And she admitted, happened to be female, and she admitted that she thought that those people should be soft-pedaled and not, brought on stream with the same perception that they can learn and that they can excel. During this intervention, you may ask me questions like, this guy could not line up his multiplication. So I said to her, use graph paper. Only one person lived in a cell. So, that would help them to line up and to do that. I'm just throwing this out as something. And so we have a number of things that we can learn, and then you're going to have a post-test. But we are now in February, and so probably you'll have to establish your own baseline. And you pick a topic. It's only 6 weeks that you have to work with this for the period, for the 50% part of the course. The presentation is 20, that will be 70, and the paper that you have to write is 30%, which makes the 100%.
Well, it's fun. For the written assignments, that's going to journal? Or
No, that's a different, it's 30% for that. The journal part is 50%, where you conduct the intervention and you write a daily summary of what transpired, what you were happy with, what you think could change, what you come and you ask questions about that, and so on. So that is the 50%. St. Lucia and Bermuda, I don't know if you have the course outline, but if you do not have it, I'll be sending it to you by email.
Okay.
Okay. So those are the things that you can start on right away in terms of the research that you have to do with the different theorists. What you have to do, like Piaget, he linked his findings in his research strictly on age. He has 4 stages, and he did that. And he said, by this age, you should be able to do this. By this age, you should deal with abstraction and that kind of a thing. Now, what happened is that people are now refuting that and say probably age isn't the biggest factor, is the skill level at any age that you could go on to get some things accomplished. And so, therefore, within the findings of the theorist, you can find places where you can challenge or you can go along, and then you can do additional research based on just what I just mentioned. For example, the age factor, that everything doesn't happen in lockstep, because he has from infancy to 2, and so on with the first, the pre-operational stage and those kinds of things. So that is what you have to do. So you would have to do the research, and present a paper to me that is going to be weighted 30%.
So, okay, I'm having, you have a question for the written assignment, so we'll just choose a topic and then research on that.
No. The topic is already chosen for you.
Okay.
You are going to research maybe 4 or 5 learning theorists, specifically dealing with mathematics. That is the first, that is the one written assignment, which is weighted 30%.
Okay, all right, I'm guessing. Okay, so we haven't been told the topics yet, are they?
Oh, I'm saying that probably we could research different ones. I'm sure they'll be overlapping because some of them are giants in the field, and so some of you will have some overlap. But the thing is that when all is said and done, you'd have researched 4 or 5 theorists,
Okay.
and write the 3,000 word paper.
So for what you said, that is already chosen for us, so we'll soon get those topics. Right, you're talking about these journals, right? You're talking.
No, I'm not talking about a journal.
No,
I'm talking about a written assignment.
Right. So,
Okay, written assignment. We're supposed to be researching these learning theories.
That's correct.
Okay, so we need to go and find out who these theories are.
Yes. And some of them are giants, like Piaget, Vygotsky, Brunner, Skinner, Garnet's intelligences, those kinds of people. Lav, as people call it, and so on. So there are many of them. But I'm saying within their findings, the people are challenging different claims. And so you could, if you see something that triggers your interest, you could go look at what other people have done with the claims that they have made. And I gave you one example.
okay, but I think that what we're not clear on is that you said the topic has already been chosen.
Learning theorists, but the theorists themselves, you will choose.
Oh, okay, so the paper is on learning theories. Okay, nice.
Are we all on the same page?
I think I'm guessing there.
No, we're not.
You have heard of learning theories, yes? Like Piaget, Brunner, Skinner.
Yes, we have.
We're going to prepare a 3,000 word paper on their major findings. And that is weighted 30% of the course.
Learning theory with 30%.
Yes.
Are you going to send out?
Yes, I'm going to send it to you. I do not have a complete list because I did try to communicate with the people that I saw on the list that was given to me. And has anybody received greeting from me or some kind of initial contact?
Yes, we have.
Yes, so I will send you the course outline. So it's 3 major components of the test, of the course. One, it's the 3,000 word paper on learning theorists that you will choose. But I'm saying there are going to be many overlaps because of the fact that there are some giants in the field that you don't want to miss. The second part would be the journal that you will generate with the intervention that you're going to tutor a student in an area for which they need additional proficiency. That is worth 50%. So it's the intervention, the lesson that will constitute a baseline for where the area, the topic in which a child is having a problem. You are going to make plans to do an intervention in that area. Did you get that? Did you get that?
Yeah, yes, we do.
Yes, yes.
All right, that's worth 50%. So the actual being with the kid for 6 sessions and writing the journal as you go along. On whatever day you have it, you summarize, you evaluate, and that will be part of your journal.
So that's 6 sessions?
Yes. How many people are in classrooms? Bermuda, are you in a classroom now?
We got 2 in Bermuda now.
Yes, are you in classrooms?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so you will be able to get a student and work with them one-on-one for the material from which your journal will be generated. Okay?
Okay.
All
So
right.
that's 50%. And then the learning theory, what we do in the learning theory?
That will be 30%.
And what is that one, please?
The learning theory.
Oh, just general, what we're going to learn?
No.
How much?
You can speak up a little bit more so we can all hear what you're saying.
I was just filling her because she just arrived.
I know, but now she has it. Do you understand what the learning theorists, the people who say we have studied children and we believe that the findings are valid and they can be used as a guide in order to teach the students?
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
The last part of the course, you will give an oral presentation of what happened with the intervention, how you have been affected, if you have changed your mind, if you have adjusted your philosophy, if you have an eye-opener for something that you didn't consider previously, all those dynamics with the child.
The last part? Oral presentation?
And that is worth 20%.
So that, okay, so you, just to rehearse this now, the oral presentation, 20% of what we did during the tutoring sessions?
Yes, sometimes will be devoted to that, where each person will take their turn to make a presentation. Okay. Now, the other thing, I'm going to send you a couple of documents. One will be the course outline and one will, well, it's really 3. I'll be sending you the points that should be covered in the intervention. I want to warn you about that because this is something that was taken from a book, School-Based Interventions. And you can intervene for a number of things. And generally speaking, they have, sometimes they want to change the culture of the school, so it can be an intervention for social change. It can be, but ours will be for academic, to increase academic proficiency. Yes, and it will be with one child, it won't be school-based. But the intervention plan that they have published in this book is like a general one. So we are going to tweak it to deal with our case specifically. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So you're going to, they talk about the social this, and they have to look at the school, and the principal have to give some input and all of that, because the school might be under a cloud to say the school is in a bad area and the kids there are not well behaved. They might have a school-based intervention to shift that image to something more positive. But we are strictly dealing with the academics. So the whole objective of working with the students is to get them to be more proficient in the area that was chosen for the intervention. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Now, so we are going to say the duration will be six meetings. And some of you are in schools already. So I think that that will work well. What grades do you teach, Bermuda?
Middle school, that's from grade 6 to grade 6, 7, 8. 6 to 8, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
And you count 7 and 8 as high school?
Middle school, pardon me?
Okay.
P6 to 9, to P8, to M1 to M3, that is grade 6. Grade 6 elementary school, don't it? Grade 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, and 9. I'm sorry, grade 7, 8, and 9.
Yes, but
we would have.
you call that middle school? We call that high school.
Right, that's middle school.
Middle school,
We
yeah.
call it high school. So you can work with any student in one of those areas. But you teach across the board 7 through 9? Do you teach?
No, I personally just do 8.
Okay, so probably could choose a grade 7 child.
Okay.
Or whatever. But I need to get the documentation on that. I need to get the, everything is going to happen there. Because I have to get the times you meet, I have to get evaluations, I have to get, even before that, I have to get the diagnostic work to show where we're going to interview. And then we have to have, the diagnostic work is like a pretest where you select based on the topics that are covered. You can see where the weaknesses would have developed, and you go from there.
Okay.
There are some references that I will be sending to you to look at the different areas. Now, there is a situation here where I will be absent. This class meets on a Monday. So April 6th is Easter Monday. And so I will be absent from school, from class on April the 13th.
April 13?
Yes.
April 6th.
Can you repeat that, please?
April 6th.
But that is a national holiday.
Essentially,
April 6th is
Well, I'm not going to miss 2 classes. I'm going to miss 1. Okay? So that is how that goes. So now, yes.
So instead of having Easter Monday off, we'll be here on Easter Monday, and then you'll not be here on the 13th, right?
No, I'll be absent on the 13th. Okay.
So no class on the 13th.
Jamaica, no class on Easter Monday because it's a national holiday in Jamaica.
So no class on the 13th.
Good Friday and Easter Monday are holidays in Jamaica. All right.
So
okay.
Question before we're on. The pretest. The pretest to establish a baseline for the intervention. We are supposed to design such pretest.
No, I don't think so, because I don't trust teachers to do the pretest. So we have to get some kind of a end of unit something, or something that is already on board. I do not like teacher made questions because you have to be really trained to be able to write good teacher. Yes. Because I think they get a 6-week test, or they get a monthly test, or they get something that has already been taught.
And of course, it's a math test that you want.
Oh yes, because it's a math intervention, right?
So if you don't teach, like if you're not currently teaching, how can you do it?
Remember, I said we're going to impose on those people from Clancarty to ask to see if they can speak. I can speak to the principal and tell them what I would like to see happen, and then if they would allow, and parents have to be notified because most of it's going to be after school.
It's the seventh grade.
It can be the 7th grade, but it can be the 8th grade. You know, that's all right. I'm just saying, if you focus your day job on the 8th grade, probably you could take somebody from another area. Like, yes.
Even that, you said that there are some school of thought out there saying that it's not necessarily the age, but the, what was it? The skill level.
Mm-hmm.
You do have persons who are over 18 that they're at a skill level of a 10-year-old. So couldn't I just apply that concept and get someone from community college?
Well, the community college, I don't know. I can ask for guidance on that.
Okay.
But I think it's a grade school child that they are looking at in the May. Yes.
And grade school would be?
Up to 6th.
Up to high school?
But it's high school teachers that you are training here.
Less than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you say it's after school that we have to do that, right?
But you couldn't interrupt their regular scheduled program during the day, their academic.
And you can't interrupt their weekends to go.
Weekends?
Like their Saturday or.
Well, I don't know about.
Saying having two hours with them or.
Well, I do not know about that.
How long should the sessions be?
I would think that, for a 7th or 8th grader, probably 1 hour would be all right.
1 hour.
That's what I was thinking.
1 hour per week with them? Well, it's 6
Yes,
sessions, so
it's 6 sessions.
1 hour. 1 hour.
What seems to be the problem?
Oh, no. You have to try to say. So, say, how about like a Saturday, like 1 hour on a Saturday?
Well, but it would have to be structured so it has some integrity. We do not want to grab somebody off the street and don't know what they're doing.
Saying, if we ask that it's still, you know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. Parents would have to be involved to provide it. And then there are questions of, being transparent and all of that kind of stuff.
And where we would meet.
That's right, yes. And school doesn't meet on a Saturday.
Because you work, right?
What
time you work? That's what I mean.
Because
suggestion I would make personal financial activity that they could probably go through that way.
Well, but you'd have to touch base with their school because you'd have to know what is going on there because you wouldn't know where to begin. Yes, because I do not want to grab somebody off the street, don't know what they're about, don't know where they're on the totem pole of whatever topic that's being discussed, and say you're going to have an intervention because you must have a before, a middle, and an after. So we're going to bed. I did get through at Mona last week. For the people who are overseas, I need to get some information for the persons who will be involved with you in selecting students, and you can email me that information and I can get in touch with them myself because I want this thing to have some integrity because sometimes people, do various things that it loses structure, it loses form, and, it's not really a beneficial experience. It's something to get a grade, but growth is absent.
So we should submit a proposal?
Hello.
Yes.
I don't understand what you just said. Please repeat what you just said about the selection of students.
At school, give me a name of a school in St. Lucia.
St. Mary's College.
The Mary College. If you are going to try to get a student from the Mary College, I would like to know the name of the principal. I would like to know an email address that I could get in touch with the person. I also would like you to include whatever is your diagnostic tool to determine where you're going to be intervening and at what level in terms of grade level and so on. Out there?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Yes. I'm going to say that we will work on the deadlines later, but I'm going to say that for the time that I missed, I'm going to make sure that you have that time that you can work on your paper and work on whatever it is. Because in the journal, you have to have the diagnostic tool, whatever instrument you use. Then we have to see where you make the intervention. Then we have to have summary statement, evaluation for each session. I have to have samples of the child's work to demonstrate anything that might not be moving or something might be moving in a positive direction. Yes, I will. Because then you have to have a lesson plan. Once you have made the decision that we are going to intervene with fractions, say, then what you're going to do is to say, what? Came with us fractions, because there are many things you can do with fractions. But if suppose this child had a unit on fractions, then you're going to say the person doesn't understand how to divide fractions, or the person doesn't understand or show proficiency in the area of adding fractions or comparing fractions or whatever it is that you are going to choose. Once you have done that, you make the intervention focusing on those skills, evaluating them after each session. I have to see samples of children's work, especially if you're going to say, you know, this child didn't understand why we invert when we divide, why we do whatever, that kind of a thing. So the whole dynamics of the class has to be reflected in your journal and also in your oral report. Yes.
Okay. Or for example, we're going to do an intervention with this child. Based on we're going to look on their scores in math with the different aspects, and then we decide where we're going to intervene. Whereas it's going to be fraction as against other things.
That's an example, I think.
No, meaning how we choose which criteria, which thing.
Listen, at the time we are in the school year, suppose that the regular teacher has covered fractions in its 4 operations and has had a test on it. We could get a copy of those tests with the name blotted out, and you check to see where there are any deficiencies or the most grievous deficiency in the unit that has been completed.
Of course.
I was just using fractions as an example.
No, I know you are just using that. I was just wondering how you choose.
I just said it. I said it 3 times ago.
And preferably not a multiple choice exam.
Of course not.
Exactly.
Because we need to
you need to see how they go through.
That's correct.
And that will show you also where the deficiency lies.
That's correct. Yes. I never taught primary school or high school?
No.
Oh, all right. So here we have that situation where I'm taking half an hour to explain this. I think I'm repeating myself a lot. But anyway, here we are with those 3 main assignments that make up the 100%. All right? All right. So, St. Lucia, are you understanding what we're doing?
When is it due?
Oh, but I'm going to give some time because you know I'm going to be absent. So that in there, we'll say, okay, that time will be devoted to your you free up some time to go do the research or whatever it is that you have. All right? All right. So I am.
Excuse me, the first assignment, when is it due?
The paper on
the written assignments.
the research.
It will be announced. Because I want to include that time. Hello? I want to include that time as a time that you have free to do your research when I will be absent. So it will be like using some class time that was freed up to do the the assignment. So it will be due after, let me look in my book, it will be due after the week of April 17th. Please listen. It will be due after the week of the 13th of April. That's a learning theorist one. Whenever you start your intervention, your journal compilation will be at that time. And that you're kind of flex with it, because I do not know exactly when you'd like to start. What I want to guard against, however, that all these things come in at the same time, because I teach face-to-face here as well. So I would not like everything to come in at the end of the semester, but we go on. It is your understanding that we go on till May something? May the 4th.
May 8th.
Okay.
May the 4th.
Yeah.
May the 4th is a Monday. May the 8th is a Friday that week. But our day is a Monday. Are we okay? All right. This is the book I'm using. I use a number of books depending on what. But this is evidence of research. So that is what we are going to do. Now, the topics that we are studying in the course outline is pretty much, they have lots of intersections. They have lots of intersections. But what I would like to do today is for us to have a dialogue on some of the things that are mentioned in the course outline. So we're going to deal with purposes of learning mathematics. So anybody can jump in and tell me what they think is the purpose of learning mathematics. I outlined some of the things before.
I think that I know when I was a teenager, I used to ask that same question, and I know now that I've worked for many years, and as I said, I studied architectural engineering myself. Math helps us understand a lot of the ways things in the world actually relate to one another once we apply it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? St. Lucia, anybody wants to say something?
Learning math, actually, I believe it helps with logic skills. It helps a student develop their logic. So they would be able to basically look at everything with a more mathematical or scientific approach, because that's what math is, the way to manipulate science. So that's why I feel it's important to learn math. That's the purpose of doing math.
My question is to that is, yes, that's one justification, but does it affect any other area of our lives?
I think basically maths is applied to many things. Even in simple baking, you have to know a certain measurement, how many ounces in the pounds and all of that. So I think maths is applicable. And as he says, like even in making a real bridge, you need to know all those stuff, what the length, the height, and all of that. So I think math is really applicable in many things, but it's because we don't associate them during teaching, they look disjointed. But if we put them, tie them into real life situation, then many children would even more have a better acceptance of maths.
Yeah, you're touching on a very good topic, because we are hoping that students will make connections with what they experience in the classroom and what they experience outside of the classroom. Sometimes math is presented in a way that people think that it's on page 94 in classroom 3B, and after that it's over and out from the application. Transportation, all kinds of things have to do with math. Math is really the servant of a number of different.
It's a manner of reasoning. It's not.
She said logic.
Right, a matter of reasoning. And you have problem solving, but you're solving what problem? You know, what does the problem apply to? I mean, yes, we do have like driving and all of that, but you know how to read that sign saying 50 kilometers per hour or saying 50, you know, or 30. So how do you apply it to so many things? You're cooking, you're driving, you apply. What I saw was that I had a love for mathematics in school because, you know, I couldn't really say listen to music and read, but I could listen to music and just do math all day. But then I came to the realization that, you know, the worded questions always kind of have me, it has me a little, it holds me up. Because, you know, the worded questions, many of them, they need you to think about what you're doing and then you apply. So what I did was I saw that you need to work on those things, all those formula and stuff, and, you know, you just knowing the formula and you just putting numbers in place. That's one thing, but you need to know how to apply all of this. Then when I saw myself going into economics and I'm saying, interesting, and I did some statistics and I see where I'm applying the statistics and I'm using some math there. And I saw where I'm applying my math in statistics and applying the statistics, basically the math, basically in economics. And I see where I'm coming to some conclusions and I'm saying, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm studying, I'm comparing co-educational versus same-sex schools. Yet still, how am I going about that? I'm using the grades from, you know, between math and English from the different schools where the schools are located, and I use the math to come to a general conclusion, and then, you know, make implications, recommendations, and see all that. So math can be applied to all aspects. Math can be applied.
It's a servant. It's a servant. It's a servant.
Essentially, it's just counting.
It's a lot of counting that leads to decision making, especially in statistics. Because
in all aspects, you are measuring something. In all aspects, that's what it comes down to. You use maths to measure something, you get this parameter, and then you analyze it.
Exactly.
In all aspects of life.
Yes, for instance, in statistics, why does the government need to take a survey? A census. Why does a government need to know what census is? And, you know, census doesn't have just name and age, it has other things. But even name and age can tell you a lot about your population. You want to jump in, St. Lucia? Why would the government want to know the census of the country? And they do it like every 10 years or every 5 years or something in that nature. St. Lucia, why would the government want to get...
Because they have to plan for things like education. Yes.
Be more specific.
Are you hearing me?
Be more specific.
Right, I said they need it in their planning because they have to plan for the future for things like education, housing, healthcare, and so on. So if they know things like, for example, the birth rate and the number of children at a particular age, and they know how many school places they're going to be needing at a certain point in time, and therefore how many teachers they probably need to train and so on.
Exactly.
Right?
That's very good. Because if what would you say if a country saw that 48% of their population is under 40? What do you think they would be doing there? Versus if the 48% was like young children, you know, like a lot of
that means in the next couple of years they're going to be having a lot of spending a lot of money on healthcare because the population will be getting older. They know you're not going to have enough young persons.
That's right.
To have more productivity.
So the statistics there is looking at the composition of the population and plan accordingly. If we have a bunch of young children, we are going to be looking, can we accommodate them in schools? They are in this age group, what we're going to do for later on. Probably it might have incentives for teachers, you know, pay for the people to come into teaching so that you would have enough teachers to service the population. If you find out that you have a large sector of your population is, so not only schools, but playgrounds, after school activities, all kinds of things, you make a projection for that. So what is happening here, when we are teaching and learning mathematics, we should be able as teachers to get the students interested, because a second grader can do a survey. Second grader ask some question and get a yes or a no. In Jamaica, we have courts. I don't know if you have it in St. Lucia and so on, but most people buy furniture from Courts or Singer. And you could just ask, you know, just around in your environment, you know, where did you get your furniture? Where did, that's a survey. And they can just say, I asked 5 people and 3 people went to Courts and 2 people went to Singer. So therefore, when they come in now and they get all the information from every member of the class, so our homework doesn't have to be like 94 problems 1, 2, 5. Because here is a big application and you can make a bar graph using Post-its, you know, come and paste up as many people, let's say, and pile them up, you can see right away, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. So what we are trying to do here is to let the math come alive with things that the students could be interested in. And then you will see that probably it won't be this big turnoff, because there are ways that we can get students to get involved and to have a love for math. Now, sometimes people can ask, if math was a song or math was music, what do you think you would hear most, you know, in the population? What kind of music?
Discard.
Discard.
I don't know. Don't sound right.
Would it be guitar? Would it be what? Would it be rap?
No harmony.
Would it be church songs? Would it be what? Eh?
I don't think I get the question.
A lot of noise.
Math was music. What kind of music you think you would hear?
Like what genre?
Yes, probably. Yeah.
What did she say?
It depends on what genre people like. And
that's what I'm saying.
So they actually depends on what status they put how you feel about math and kind of music.
But it would reflect, no, it's not. I'm not saying that I'm using a metaphor, right, to say most of the population would choose what kind of music if math was music. Would they choose something lively? What would they do? Upbeat or something to make you want to go to sleep or what?
Young people choose the music of alcohol.
I don't know what's out
I think
they would choose dancehall? I doubt it.
No, there would probably be some Mozart, some
it would be something that
it would be some classical.
Most students like math?
It would be a discordant note. Everybody offbeat. Looking in reality, as many children right now don't like maths.
Exactly. Definitely not. Probably to be classical, some kind of a violin or something.
You're not feeling like it's just a monotonous mood.
Yes, right. So the thing is, some people who love math maybe will have the dancehall because they think that is something they enjoy. But if we are using the kind of a feedback we are getting, then you know it's really something that we want to encourage students to like mathematics and to enjoy it, to see the relevance of it, and so on. So the teachers are pivotal in the teaching and learning of mathematics by children. Not that the teacher is the most important person in the classroom, but the teacher really is pivotal because your attitude, your demeanor, the environment that you create, the enthusiasm, as I say, you know, you walk into the room and you turn your back to the students and you have to start with an example. There is no talking, there is no nothing. You say, good morning, students. and you start with your examples.
It's just a matter of boredom.
Yes, it's, it's the expository method that we see a lot being repeated, and we notice that students can be turned off by it. Sometimes you have students who are intrinsically motivated, and so, they will do it in spite of the teacher. But there are some students who they take kind of a reading of the teacher to motivate or demotivate them.
Because they see the teacher as the leader of the group, basically.
You have something to say.
Right. What I've been finding, because I haven't been teaching for very long, just 2 weeks. But what I've found is that when I go into a class and I try to engage my students in a conversation to try and relate what I'm teaching them to what they know. Like for example, I was doing.
Are you hearing?
Yes, we are.
Okay, good.
Okay, so for example, I was doing with my grade 9 students foreign exchange, and I was trying to talk to them about math. Yeah, math. So we're doing foreign exchange, and I was talking to them about remittances and all that. I was trying to get information from them. But whenever I try to do that, they say, "Miss, you're not going to work on the board." So I don't know if it is that they are so used to just getting the work. Because when I try to engage them, they ask me for work on the board. And I say, I haven't taught you anything. How can I put work on the board? But they want work on the board. So.
Well, the thing is now, that's where the strategies come in. Because teacher, the main two components, there are many others. The main two components in teaching is teacher knowledge and teacher quality. When you have teacher knowledge and teacher quality, and a lot of ministries of education are revising their curriculum, and there are some piloting in about 33 schools now at the primary level as to what they want. And it's highly scripted because teachers sometimes do not know how to, introduce the subject, create an interest, and so on. Now, if you're talking about foreign exchange and it's something up there, right, probably they still would relate to it. But you can say something about if they have someone in the States, you can take a survey of that. You can talk about, because the States, Canada, or England are the three main places from which they get whatever. But
class and if you know one of them name, you're like, hey Nick, what would you do with $100 US?
Yes,
that's I did all of that.
Okay.
They want work on the board.
Yes.
They want work.
Well, the thing is that you have to shape them. Probably you could put what I've seen some teachers do. If you join in the conversation and you give an answer where you can't be wrong, you get like 1 point added to your test, or a half a point, or a quarter point, or something. And if yes, it's like an incentive for you to be engaged. But you need knowledge and skills to teach mathematics, right? The research studies show that students' mathematics learning and their disposition towards mathematics is heavily influenced by the teacher. As teachers, we have to remember that we don't have to be the center of knowledge, but we have to be there, and we have to have a certain demeanor. We have to have a certain way of how we approach what is happening. It is clear that teachers make a difference to student learning. I want to tell you that where I used to teach, we used to have a shadow day for the students. And you would be surprised at what the students will pick up on as you being the teacher.
I know. That's
very, very surprised. Because I used to wear a scarf, a scarf, and I used to eat dried cranberries, so it would be on my desk. And this girl, we had to meet, we had to plan what she was going to teach, we had to do all of that. And she had her mother to buy a scarf and a pack of to put on the desk. You see what I'm saying? They notice us more than we think. And now the Ministry of Education in Jamaica has established a dress code that is online for teachers in the classroom, both male and female, because they follow you. I wore the same earring, I think, about 3 days in a row, and somebody commented on it. So it's your whole person that they're looking at.
And that's something I saw too through my research, comparing co-ed versus same-sex schools. And what I realized, like, I've spoken to quite a few young men who they've been to, you know, same-sex, and they're telling me about what they remember from their female math teacher. I remember one saying, oh, his female math teacher, he wasn't sure he was focusing on math. Her. And I'm like, you know, and then saying, okay, age 15, age 16, you have to think about it, puberty, you have to think about so many things.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the things I heard, I was like, are you serious?
They do
they
watch
are
the teachers.
really watching the teachers.
Yes.
About her hair is
and
so
it's
long.
not only what you say, but the image you portray in terms of your love for math. You're not there because it translates into a paycheck. You know, because
I've heard, you know, students who they actually, you know, the teacher got in class and they're like, Miss, you look lovely today. Or Miss, I like that skirt you're in. And I'm like, really?
Yes.
You didn't really portray any kind of, no.
Yes.
So, you know, there are many things that kids students they will watch you are unaware of.
So, secondary school mathematics and the requirement are the challenges that we are going to be looking at, right? The philosophy, we are not to write off any student. No student is to be written off because you don't know who you're looking at. You have no idea who you're looking at. Who knows that Andrew Holness in Spanish Town High School will become the Prime Minister of a short? Can't write off anybody. We have to keep the attitude that this potential that this child has, we have to unpack it. We have to unpack the potential of this
many times
person.
when you write off some students too, it is quite obvious. It's obvious to them.
Oh,
so that
exactly.
will just turn them off too, totally.
It might
motivate
them. Yes.
You see, there are so many ways to.
Everybody has their own beliefs, and teachers are a group of people sometimes that the staff room is a dangerous place to be, especially if you had students who were had siblings before them, you know, that you've taught the older brother or the whatever. You have a kind of form an idea about the family and all of that, and you have to look at a new slate as a blank page on which you are to, you know, write in the students' minds and attitudes. So your beliefs impact the children very greatly. It perceives, you have to know that you teach, you hope that the children learn, you have to make, after you have to find out through assessment what they have learned, and you have to be able to understand your own self about what you believe about the student. And the teachers' staff room can be a dangerous place because they could plant some ideas in your mind. And so students not only learn cognitively, but their beliefs. If you know, there was a experiment in Washington, D.C., where I used to teach, and they have lockers for every child along the walls where you put up your bag and you go to your locker, like at lunchtime, put down your bag, go to lunch, come back. And they did this experiment. They didn't know anything about the kids. All they did was to choose some locker numbers and said, these kids are that characteristics. These kids are not going to learn no matter if you do somersaults in the classroom. And it's like a predictor of where these children would land. And so therefore, in the staff room where you are, you need to know that you do not take everything as gospel. Because the teacher might react, the child might react to one teacher one way and another teacher another way. So we know that it is important for them to learn at one level for the requirements. Now, how did the curriculum get written the way it has been written in the different countries? What is it that motivated certain things to be in the curriculum?
I think it's the standard.
Yes, but why do we choose that? Because some societies say you don't need more than a 6th grade education. Some societies say you don't need to do math. Some say you don't need to do, you know, some other thing. Why it is that we have a curriculum in the way it's written?
I think that we see advancements every day in life, and now I guess for the last few years is technology. So I think the curriculum has to keep pace with that. As the world changes, we need to realize that we need different skills and different knowledge sets in order to go forward in life. So we have to adjust what we're teaching.
Mm-hmm. So anybody else want to comment?
I think it's the standard set by the state. You know, the state
Then
standard is.
how did they arrive at those standards?
What you say?
Just trying to find out
how did they arrive at those standards?
Maybe based on some statistic of the low of people intelligence or so.
Anybody else want to say anything?
Maybe they do a survey. Maybe they do a survey and see where the need needed the most.
I think it's to check where we are in terms of us comparing ourselves to other countries.
But some students, some societies do not bind to that. But even if we could bind to that, because you know you have the international exams, and they go from that to talk about the different achievement levels from the different countries. But the thing is mainly culture, what we value, and the level of our society. Because as you said in Bermuda, that with the age of technology, I mean, the amazing things that you can do now, you could be left behind. You really could be left behind if you do not keep up with that. The other thing is that the world has now become flat. It's no longer you have to go someplace to be there. Just look at this example. Do you see what I'm saying? And so sometimes it's triggered by need. It's triggered by need because initially the counting system came into being because of a need to solve a problem. Like for instance, way back when there were people who didn't know to count 1 to 10. But what they did with the farming of the raising of cattle and so on, they send them out in the morning to graze, right? And every head of cattle had a stone representing it. So as the cattle went through the door, the farmer then put a stone to represent that. And then he could check in the evening to see if anyone is missing. And we have, what is that in mathematics? A one-to-one function. Do we see that it was calculus? Do we see that? Do we see that? So yes. We invent problems we invent mathematics to solve societal problems. Okay? So I want my teachers to know that you never write a lesson until you're able to find an application that the student can understand. If I'm talking to teenagers today about purchasing something, what topic do you think I would choose that would have their interest? Cell phones. Everybody would like 2 and 3. Do we see that? And I've never seen such attachment to cell phones. I've seen it, but I didn't dream that it would be that. I was in a restaurant and 2 people came together and they did not speak to one another. One was at this side, the other one was the other side of the table, and they were, right? The only time they pulled up their heads from that was to talk to the waiter to order what it is that they want. So the nature of mathematics, the nature of mathematics, I don't see why, but anyway, the nature of mathematics is that we have to have mathematics through classroom practice, but it is also so applicable outside of the classroom, and we need to show them that side of it, because that could create an interest. You know that if you're going to talk to teenagers about buying cars and all of that, it doesn't register, does it? But if you talk about self, yes, because I heard a girl threatening to get somebody to beat up somebody else for stealing our phone that she paid $15,000 for. So the thing is that phone is a big thing, right? So the thing is, probably if you want to talk about foreign exchange, you could talk about cell phones and say, if you had to pay this, how much would you pay in that? And that kind of conversion. So you could do that. Okay, so.
It's not for lack of trying.
But you see, they're only 2 weeks there. So you have to now shape them. You have to shape them. You have to shape them. Yes, ma'am. Yes?
That's so true, because I remember I was teaching decimal. Somebody's talking. Or I was teaching decimal, and like the students, some of them, like, they never made the connection until I started to see it as dollars and cents. And they pick it up so fast.
That's
when
good.
I connect dollars and cents.
Okay, so the thing is that you have to make sure that you try when you're writing a lesson, and your lesson plan should not be done at 4:30 in the morning for 8 o'clock class. Because the thing is that you're going to miss out on a lot. Because in a lesson plan, you have to have something that could create an interest. You also have to know that what are the prerequisites for what you're going to do, and you need to do a task analysis. Everybody knows what a task analysis is. A task analysis, if I give somebody something to do, I want to know that they brought some skills with them, because nobody is basically blank. Nobody is blank. But the thing is, you have to know what skills they would need to bring to the table in order to be successful with that particular event, which I call an exercise. I don't want to call it a problem, because that puts another negative on mathematics. But the thing is that you have to know. You have to know age, stage, and stage is very important, because as you say, some grown-ups are at the high school level, and they do not know what it is that they're supposed to know in terms of prerequisite skills. And teachers should not use the word, you're supposed to know that from the 7th grade.
But you see, that's something, because as she said about, grown-ups, I've been in a case already where I've spoken to persons who are, in university, and they were like, I hated math so much in high school, I just wanted to pass it. And when they told me about the teacher that they got in like first year of university, and the teacher would just apply the math in so many different ways, and use it in a manner where they're not just seeing formula on the board. And that person said to me, I would go home, and that's the first homework I would do, because I remember all those, and I know the questions for homework. It pulls you in. It doesn't just have the formula then there, and you're just trying to look at the formula, and it develops discipline. Because when you see that happening, you realize that you will be disciplined enough to go forward to at least complete your homework, your assignments. And when you complete that assignment, because it actually taught me discipline, because I would just go home and listen to music and do math. And
I couldn't listen to music.
No, but I couldn't do that with reading. You see, I just could not do that with reading. because I will be singing while I'm reading, and I'm not learning anything.
Right. I can't multiple task with singing and doing math.
But then what that taught me was discipline, because it showed me that, hey, you realize you're going to study some geography, you can't listen to music. So put that aside, and it taught discipline. So there are so many ways. There are the direct and indirect ways of math just helping you.
Okay, but just to summarize about how important the teacher is, we have a strong link about past school experiences for the teacher. We have teacher education programs. We have mathematics beliefs do influence mathematics teaching and practices. So we need the knowledge, and we need pedagogy to be successful. And we have to think long and hard. We have to be current with our thinking, because things are moving just like this. Every day something else that yesterday became obsolete. Because now you can talk to your radio and it plays what you want. You can see your medical report from your watch. You can talk to your watch and find out what is your blood pressure and all of that kind of stuff. So it's all over the place. So teacher programs, we need to have a talk with the teacher programs as they are set up in the different teacher training institutions in order to include some of these things. And I think some people are getting savvy at that, because they're working with standards and they're working with the trend of things that we have today. So if you have a certain experience with math, you do not want to, some teachers have attitude, I had to learn it, so you better learn it because now I know it. And that is not a good attitude. So strong influence between teachers' mathematics beliefs and teacher and mathematics teaching. Okay? Mathematics and numeracy. Mathematics and numeracy is sort of things that you can do with your math outside of the classroom. Outside of the classroom. So when we look at numeracy, we're looking at how math fits into your life as an adult. How do you manage? If you want something, do you want it for today or do you want it to last? Probably by the first thing that comes to your mind, it is less expensive, but it's not less expensive in the long run, right? So there is something about delayed gratification that, if you want something very, very badly, you can say, probably I will save up the money instead of going there and taking it on higher purchase. Are you accustomed to this statement, higher purchase, in other countries?
Yeah, higher purchase, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Very familiar.
Yes.
Yes, in higher purchase. So probably you don't have to get it for Christmas 2014. Probably you could save up and be and buying it cash for December 2015 that nobody knows about yet. But the thing is that you can train your children to think of those things. When you're doing things like, do you do compound interest in school?
Yeah.
Yes, you do compound interest. You can show them how a little bit of money could be something, very, very inflated by the time you reach a certain age. And it's painless to save when you are a young person, because you don't have all the adult responsibilities. But if you can show them the magic of compound interest, and probably you could have a mock thing that, you save that, you save that, you save that, and you say, if I save it over so much time, what will happen? And so you can get them, hopefully to be interested, and let us become a nation of savers. Essential knowledge and competencies from mathematics numeracy is something that we are striving for. I know that the Ministry of Education published a paper on numeracy. Numeracy is not just or literacy. Mathematical literacy is another name for numeracy. You have an intelligent approach to your life. Suppose you are going out somewhere and you have to rent a car. You can have different plans. You can bring that in and see. You know, they could have their parents make a decision. They could do whatever. But the thing is that you have to make it relevant. So no writing of lesson plans 4 hours or 3 hours before the class is due. And you must evaluate. Not just assess, but you must evaluate. Because students, I notice in Jamaica, students likes to see marks in their books and so on. And so what I have found when I'm assessing teachers, they come in, do their 3 exercises, do 5 more and start marking papers around the room. That is not a lesson. That is not a lesson. Because the person who didn't get it is out there somewhere. Yeah, and if you have to go around and give a tutorial to him and give a tutorial to this one and give a tutorial, you know you have missed the mark. You have missed the mark. And you do not teach, you do not test what you didn't teach. Do not test what you didn't teach. Because when you have success, it breeds more success. It breeds more success. And so therefore, you're going to test what you teach. Because you have no animosity against the kids. You have all positive feelings toward them, and that helps. You know, sometimes, you ever had for those people who have been in the classroom, that they don't say mama or mommy, but they feel that there's a connection. There's a connection between them and you at a near family level. Because the fact is, you have turned them on. You have turned them on. So the thing is, we have, as I said before, mathematics literacy is the same thing. It gives you quantitative tools so that you can apply them in your regular life. Some person told me that they're not going to buy a refrigerator because they don't have anything to put in the refrigerator. But if you ask them what is their school experience, they might say I dropped out because the teacher did this and the teacher did that and the teacher did the other thing. So numeracy extends beyond the classroom. It incorporates skills for practical decision making, right? So we have another thing about mathematics. As I said before, never make a lesson unless you have something to which the students can relate. Because the more you go up the ladder into higher math, it becomes more what? Challenging. More abstract. It becomes more abstract. And so therefore, you have to learn that you encourage the students to see that they have some little understanding already. Anybody in here has done abstract algebra? Abstract algebra. One of the abstract concept is called a homomorphism, right? You remember that? We only have definitions to deal with. But do you know what? There was a little homomorphic chapter in high school. So when I go in to teach that kind of thing, do you think I go in there and say today's topic is homomorphism or isomorphism? I don't do that. I said, you know what? We're going to learn something today about relationship between sets. But you know what? You have some information already. Do you remember congruent triangles, right? What it means for something to be congruent. What does it mean for something to be congruent?
The axioms?
Yes.
Equal. It's equal. Congruent is equal.
Exactly the same.
Exactly is the word I'm looking for. Exactly is the word I'm looking for. Because what happens when you have something, two triangles that are congruent, if you shine a light down on them when they're stacked, you must think it's one triangle. So isomorphism is just, and we have a definition for that. the sides and angles of congruent triangles are exactly equal, right? That is at the high school level. Now we come and we are approaching abstract algebra. It's only more conditions to satisfy because a set, right, has a number of things. So we have a list of two things for two triangles to be congruent. We're going to have something about identities. We have to have something to do with closure. We have something to do with a number of things that they must satisfy. Because how do you qualify for a set? How do you qualify to be in a certain set? How do you qualify to be in this class?
Similarities.
What is the similarity? You can be exact.
To be in this class, you have to
yes. What did you do to be in this class?
Teach math.
But everybody who teaches math is not here.
Register.
Yes, you register for the class. You register for
apply.
And so therefore we say that you are in class number ED52M or ED5213, and you are in this class and we are talking to each other. So to form a set, you have to have satisfying certain properties, or you have to have criteria to be there. Yes? So that is how we have a set. But we can know that if you are in this class, you had to register, you registered on time, I guess you pay the same amount of money or whatever, and you get to be here. Okay? So we have a situation where isomorphism has to satisfy a list of conditions. So does congruency. So I motivate my students by saying, you're not in here blank about this, and I'm not telling them isomorphism today. I'm just saying, for this set A to be isomorphic to set B, I have to satisfy these list of conditions. That is not a new concept. But if I go there and write isomorphism on the board and say, what? And they begin to be scared. They begin to be that. But if I tell you, you know something about the thing I'm going to be talking about today, I don't tell them isomorphism until they get the whole concept of how many properties have to be satisfied in order to be one set to be isomorphic to the other set. So sometimes we go in and we really don't know what we're talking about, and so we put up a title on the board and we try to follow the book and give the examples. Children don't learn that way. Children don't learn that way. So we have beliefs, we have attitudes, we have a kind of handling of life events, which we call, what we call? What do we call it? What do we say? What do we say about numeracy? What's the other name? Mathematical literacy is another name for numeracy. And if you're literate about it, then you can make decisions. All right? So, beliefs about mathematics, teaching, and learning. Just as important as the mathematics teacher and their beliefs about the nature of mathematics, the children are also important. And we hope to, have you ever gotten to a parent-teachers meeting and, we said, this is a report we are giving, and you say, but, all these, he's making A's in this course and that course and that course. The only area of weakness is the mathematics. Have you ever been in that situation? You have ever been in that situation? Yes. Okay. But what our parents say to me? They get it. They get it from them because they say, I didn't do well in math either, so I can understand, right? And they'll be more satisfied with a C in math more than if it was in science. Do you see what I'm saying? And so parents color the children, and the children come to you armed with that kind of attitude, and you know, it's kind of a wall that you're going to have to break down in order for them to do well.
What do you think about the idea that some persons are naturally more inclined towards a certain type of material? So some persons are naturally inclined towards art, literature, languages, and some persons are naturally more inclined towards math, science, and so on, more technical stuff.
Well, Skinner, who is one of the theorists, he says that you should be able to explain something, whatever concept it is, in more or less terms, more abstract or less abstract, depending on the stage of the person. And Lev Vygotsky says that there is something called the, era of proximal development. Have we heard about that before? Have we heard about that before?
No, we haven't.
Well, the thing about it is, they say that teachers are no longer the center where you just give out the knowledge and they just practice and they just procedurally move around the problems. What they're saying is that if I have a student and the student is trying to do the work, they reach a point where they cannot go beyond because of whatever problems. But if you help them over that bump, they could get to that, you know, to work with that.
You know, I saw that with a young man who I was trying to help him. I was tutoring him with CXC, and what I noticed with this young man, he loves technical drawing, and he loved the geometry, the trigonometry, and all. He loved that past the math, right? But he you know, he was there saying, I'm never gonna get to, I'm never gonna pass math. If I can get a 3, I'll be satisfied. I'm gonna fail math, and I'm like, stop. I'm saying, I just said to him, listen, there's no more say of that you're gonna fail math. And I saw that he loved the technical drawing. So I dropped in some of his geometry wasn't working out so well. So I dropped in, and I think one day I asked him to bring his TV thing.
Yeah.
And I dropped in and said, you know what? Draw that thingy, and you know, he did his drawing, and and I'm like, so I wonder what's the angle right there? And I'm like, and he said, oh yeah, Pythagoras. And then I saw where he was applying stuff, and then I said to myself, you know, this young man, he truly, because when I went through something,
he didn't see the connection.
He just didn't see the connection.
He didn't see the connection.
I saw that this young man actually, he knew the basic concepts, you know, but he just did not see the connection.
Because what we look at math with blinders on, what we learn in the classroom and what we learn in technical drawing,
he just didn't see it. And you know what? When I said to him that, listen, no more talk of failure, no more. And you know, teachers saying stuff to kids like, oh, you know, if you ever get a 1 in math, I will pay your tuition fee for university. And so, you know, the child said that made him feel down. Like, you know, he's never gonna. And let me tell you something, Dr. Nelson, the young man, he got a 3, and I started tutoring him like 3 months before, you know, and he was just hating on math. And you see, after the math exam, the young man said to me that, you know, I think I can definitely do over math and get a 2 or a 1. I was like, you see?
So is it that you think students would be more inclined to math if teachers were doing a better job at helping them? Because that's what I'm getting from what you're saying. Because it would then say, since there are so many students who are just not drawn to math, it would then say that maybe something is wrong with the math teachers. So I am wondering, is it that maybe some students are just naturally more inclined towards one area and some are naturally more inclined towards another?
I want to give you my opinion on that. I do not go in with any kind of idea like that.
Of inclination?
About inclination. Because the thing about it is, I am not an expert in making decisions.
But I'm not going to say I'm an expert either. But in grade 4 or thereabouts, right? There were a couple of kids in the classroom. I was the teacher, I just had here. And these kids, I don't know that anybody taught them to, like, be able to work out squares and square roots of any, numbers up, the squares of numbers up to in the 30s. And, could look at the number and decide on the page. Yeah, this is how you work out square root. In grade 4. I mean, I'm not saying that, hey, these kids are, have more of an acumen for mathematics than the others, but I would definitely think so based on just the school.
Well, let me tell you what's my take on that. There are going to be some people who has a, what you call, they can look ahead and see what is coming up, right? But so many people at the bottom, some people are there who needn't have been there. Because that's why you have a test, and that's why you have to test that 80% of the people may get, pass the test, and then the movers and the shakers will, fill out the other 20%. But the thing about it is that the number of failures that we have in Jamaica or the West Indies, it can't be all those people don't have an accent. So I put the responsibility at the feet of the teachers. I put the responsibility at the feet of the teachers because in Jamaican situation, more than half of our teachers at the primary level are not equipped to teach math. And if I were the Minister of Education, I would say, if you do not pass CXC, you need not apply to teach math in the primary school. Because you should know 3 or 4 years above what it is that you're teaching.
That's true.
You should.
Should be above, yeah. I think you do.
I think the teacher in primary school, they teach all subjects. Therefore, one teacher might be strong in language.
But they have the revised primary curriculum where this strong math teacher moves around to the class and the strong social studies teacher comes and teaches her students.
But then, is it not widespread in terms of practice? Because
it should be.
Some primary school, one teacher to a class and a teacher will teach all subjects.
But what I'm saying, I understand that because that is the model. But one teacher to a class to teach all the subject areas is not a new phenomenon. The thing about it, though, that the revised primary curriculum in Jamaica says, you are in there, you're strong in math, but you're still going to teach the other subjects. So the person who is known to have more proficiency in the social studies area, you go to that class and exchange. And that is the revised primary curriculum.
Yeah, when it's the math, when it's the
yes,
schedule.
Yes, in theory, it happens in some schools. In some schools it happens.
For the primary school, like over at the secondary, we have specialized teachers. Math teacher, math subject only. I think at the primary they should have the same thing. And probably twist the revise the thing to say that at the secondary, one teacher can teach any subject because the students will have the foundation and therefore need a specialized teacher to impart. I don't know, but I'm not suggesting that.
Well, since the mathematics scores, the passing in the mathematics scores are so dismal because I think it has been growing incrementally in Jamaica, but we're in the 30 band. 44 kids take, 44,000 kids take this test and, 30-something% pass. But you should visit the, that CXC puts out a yearly report. You need to go there and look and cry.
And when you see, you see 40% passing math, and then you see 20 or 10% getting education, and you're like,
yeah.
So they're saying,
but 60% needn't be in the non area because yes, Skinner says that you should be able to explain something to a student at their level so that they can understand it. That's what he said.
So you think it is that the teachers are probably not
They're ill-equipped. They're not equipped. They're not equipped. They're not equipped. Okay? So
many times, what I've observed too with some students, I've seen it where some teachers, they're just teaching for a job. They're not really teaching because it is something they really want to impart. And I see where teaching actually strengthens you. Trust me, if you can find positives out of teaching, because when I was doing economics, so I was more on the economic side. My math was, yes, I was doing some stats, but my math was a little weak. But when I saw that I had a few persons to tutor with some math, my math started getting back strong, and that was helping out my statistics. I was helping other things, you know. I loved the math, but I wasn't continuously practicing. So when I found myself getting back where I'm helping a few students in them 6Cs and so on, I saw where my math was getting back on track. And so you have teachers who they really don't want to teach, full stop.
well, there are some people too who do not want to teach, but they think it's an easy thing to get in, then everybody is so they think it's easy, and so therefore, you can go teach. You can go teach because it's not a babysitting thing. It's not babysitting. Okay. So the thing is,
It's like you place a level there, so.
What we have in the classroom, by and large, no, is people who don't get into the private sector. Because it's a whole economic thing. I mean, we don't.
It provides a paycheck, and it's hard to get fired, and you think you can do it anyway because it couldn't be that hard. But year after year after year, we have the same statistics with the CXC, and we just move gaily along and don't try to do anything.
There's no drive.
Yes.
Right? You're not giving that push to actually.
There's no accountability.
They
are not performing.
It's hard to fire them.
Statistics show that they're not performing. So what? So we are going to what? Sacrifice a generation because of what?
So many generations.
Sometimes it's not really. Sometimes not really.
Better when it's done.
That external factor that contribute to a child not achieving.
Well, let me say that has been disproved very widely. The thing about it is, this past year in CXC, you remember, a number of schools did some advancing. A number of schools, it was in the paper, and they were interviewed. And to the man, to the woman, they said that they made up their minds that their school was going to do better. They spent more time with the students, and they got better results. So the right brain, left brain thing is there, but I'm telling you, the teachers made up their mind. And there's some teachers that I go to the schools to assess, a pre-service teacher, and the school is like a graveyard 2 seconds after the bell. Those who are making money with tutoring, they're there. But the rest of the school teaching staff is not there because they leave on the bell. It's like they're racing the kids outside to get through the gates. And those schools that made a difference, they said everybody was interviewed, said they made up their mind that their schools were going to do better and that they spent more time. So, but anyway, let us just look at, we have to have knowledge, we have to have practices that influence the student to stay engaged, sustained engagement, right? The attributes of excellent teachers, they encompass things like professional practice of mathematics. They make a positive difference. I'm supposed to teach 13 weeks in a course here. There were some people who were struggling. I taught 16 weeks. You know, I spent some more time with the student, and I mean, I don't think, you know, anybody cares that I did that because the money is the same thing. But the thing is that we have to understand that the teacher, as I said, makes a difference. The teacher also has to have a strong knowledge base and their attitude together with their attitude, because sometimes they don't know what to teach. I was in a class, as I tell you, a gallon bottle is a liter. And their bottles marked 1 liter, but she didn't take the time. She didn't take the time. On the other hand, I was in a classroom and a little girl, she was like 3rd grade. The teacher wasn't there. And she said, every day the teacher goes to town because it was in the country. And you know, she found the page. She found the page that she thought that, you know, the next thing. And she held it up like this. I'm not supposed to say anything. I'm just waiting for the teacher. And she held it up like this, and she showed it around. Because what they're doing now, they're establishing some familiarity with where they're supposed to be. They'll find the page easier. And she said, anything you don't understand, ask her. They're pointing to me, right? That girl has the makings of a teacher because they hear it, they see it, and they know where to get some help. She was in the 3rd grade, but I think she was a class monitor. No wonder. No wonder. And so the lady came back, and true to form, she said her mother was sick, so she had to go to town. Because they told me, she said, every day she goes to town, right? So the thing is, I can't stress too much, right? That you have to have the knowledge and you have to have the pedagogy. So that is what we are going to be looking at.
You see, another thing I find too, you see, as teachers, you should really don't, okay, I've seen where there's a student and he writes well, like he loves writing stories, he writes well, and you know, he's just there writing, and it's time for GSAT at the primary level. So they're like, oh, his task is gonna be, you know, he's gonna be the top for task, communication task. And they weren't really paying much attention to his math thereabouts. And you know, it was the top girl that got the 12 out of 12 communication task, and he got the 10 out of 12. And the teachers were like, they didn't expect that, but his math was like up there. You see, so they're saying, oh, so you're basically saying the student is going to be able to do that, but maybe not that. You're not really going to pay much attention to that. So they're saying, you see, they did not even look at the fact that the child did way better at the math, you know, but they're saying, we expected him to be the top for communication task. And I'm like, look at that. And you don't realize that the math was so weak. And you see, so you're just placing attention on one thing and you're not placing the attention on everything, basically. You know? You're just there saying, I think, no, it's not about I think. You need to work with it and get the facts.
Well, the thing about that kind of a thing, if it becomes so obvious that your expectations are low, they'll meet your expectations. And if your expectations are higher, they'll meet it also. Because they have the basic framework in which they can do that. But pedagogical content knowledge relates to teaching strategies. They relate to teaching strategies. It is evident when the teacher discusses or uses strategies or approaches for teaching a mathematical concept. The other thing is student thinking. If the teacher discusses or addressing student ways of thinking about a concept or a typical level of understanding. So you have a situation where it's this kind of relationship between teacher and student. All right? If the teacher discusses student misconceptions about a concept, then she is saying, I am paying attention to you. I'm paying attention to you. I see where you have a problem. Students are also to be invited, as you will see under the constructivism, that the student become the center of focus and they work out their learning based on dialogue with the teacher, but not the primary information stuffing it into, you know, your brain, okay? The cognitive demands of the task. The teacher has to think about that, which is the same thing I call a task analysis. What is it that you have to bring to the table? Because in any kind of situation, you're given some information. You're given some information. You have to say, I know this, and you have to pick up on the question, what is it I'm to do to satisfy this problem, this exercise? And you have to know what to bring to the table. To talk about problem solving, a worded problem is not problem solving. Do you hear me? A worded, what time is it?
It's 10 past.
Okay. A worded problem is not necessarily involving problem solving. Not even that. If you even know, if I say, what is the area of a playing field that is 50 meters by 20 meters. 50 meters long by 20 meters wide. That is not problem solving, not because it's written in English, that it is problem solving, right? Problem solving could be, we're planning a field trip and find the most economical way to fund it, or the lowest cost associated with achieving the aim. So the person knows that they have to include a lot of math around it. And the thing is that in Jamaica, I don't know about the other parts of the Caribbean, but they do not give projects. They give individual problems. Multiply these two numbers, divide these two numbers, right? But if you had to plan a field trip the most economical way, right? You want to know, do you think anybody would have to tell them that if the bus charge is so much that they would have to divide by the number of kids on the bus? You think anybody have to tell anybody that? No. Because first thing you want to know, how much does it cost? Do we see that? That is multiplication, that is division, right? Suppose I have, say, 250 people to go on this field trip because we're taking the whole 7th grade out of whole whatever, one grade level, okay? And they call around for transportation. Do we want to take minibuses? Do we want to hire one of the yellow buses, right? What do we want to do? Do you think you have to tell them that they have to compare prices? Do you think you have to tell them that they have to estimate? But no, page 94 says multiply these two numbers together in 25 examples, and we do that. We do not have project-based assignments, right? Because what happens is the child multiplying when they're planning a field trip? Is the child dividing when they're planning a field trip? Do we get 5 of the minibuses or get 2 of the yellow buses? Do we see that? Can you do that? If somebody doesn't understand decimals, right? And you have to move on to area of rectangle and area of circles and area of triangles. What can we do to reinforce the use of decimals for them to get the skills? We have to do some work. What is the work we have to do? Do we know the work we have to do? Most of the time, they give you whole numbers for lengths. But I just finished the decimal thing last week, and I see it is still foggy. So what I do, I satisfy the HOD that I'm doing areas, right? But I change all of those numbers to decimals. So you still have to multiply. So I'm reinforcing as I go along. Although we have to move on. Because I went to school, and when I went back, this lady was doing something else, like area. And I said, but I looked at the children's work the last time I was here, they couldn't do decimal. She said the HOD said they haven't understood it for years, just move on. You see what I'm saying? So the thing is, can we do that as teachers? Can we say, okay, we are going to multiply, the area is going to give me an opportunity to multiply, so why not decimals? Everything has to be in whole numbers. Another thing we do not do enough here for children to feel success, estimate. Estimation is a wonderful skill for division, for multiplication. If I have to multiply 3.56, write that down, because I forget, because I'm making this up. 3.56 by 5.28. Can we estimate to get ourselves in a ballpark? What's the highest number you can get for that? What's it? No, wait, no. Estimating, put down pencil.
Okay, yeah, because it's basically you have 4 times basically 5. So it's 4 times 6, yeah. So it's like 24.
You see what I'm saying? So what you do now? What did I just do? Right? What did I just do? What I said to the kid. So you said you rounded up.
Rounded up, right?
Yes. But suppose the kid said, well, the whole number is 3 on one of them, and it's 5 on the other. 3 times 5 is 15, but it's more or less more than that. So am I now in a ballpark? Am I now in a ballpark? What else is showing me? What else is it showing me? That you don't have to say, you have to put in the decimal point from the right to the left, all this kind of stuff. Because you know the biggest thing you can get is 16. So how many decimal places you're going to have? If it's 16 point something, because the whole number is 16, because it's over 5 and it's over 3, right? Do we see this, class? This is an estimate, and it puts me in the ballpark where I don't even have to tell them where to put the decimal point, because I can't get more than 2 decimal places, because 3 times 5 is 15, and the decimal parts is going to give me 16. But I cannot get 13. I cannot get 2 decimal, I can only get 2 decimal places. I cannot get 1, and I cannot get 3 decimal places. I mean, whole numbers. So I know exactly where to put the decimal point. And we fight the kids, and we say, you have to start from the left, and the kids don't know they start from the right up. But estimate. Do you see that? Do you see where the kids are now in a ballpark that they must get the problem nearly right? But when they are guessing, it's like, what is your estimate? What is good? What's your estimate? What's your estimate? Because it will be an intelligent estimate, right? You round it up, so you get to 5 4 is 20. You're not so wrong, but the thing is that I am not going to say that, right? And then after we make the estimate now, we said, okay, let us do it in real life, okay? Now, you couldn't get 6 because I think I said 5.28. So you can't round that to 6. That's right. You can't round 5.28 to 6. You have to round it to 5, right? And 5 4s, 20, right? So the thing is that you can get the kids to do things that you don't have to nail it and say, remember, you have to count from the right 3 decimal places because it was 2 decimal places here and 2 decimal places there. So you have to get 4 decimal places because I know what's the whole number already. Do you see that? And who can't do that? Tell me who can't do that. So the thing is, we have to think, and the pedagogy is the thing. Misconceptions, they wouldn't have any misconception because they know they cannot get more than 16. Do we see that? Yes? Do we see that? Okay. So the misconceptions, as I said before, you discuss and that would be a misconception. But if you see a misconception, you clear it up. How are you going to know it's a misconception? You have to ask certain questions. And when you're asking questions, you do not say, anybody else? No. You can say, anybody else want to help me? You do not show an attitude because that person drops a curtain and relaxes. Do we see that? Kids don't learn that way. All right? So then, the cognitive demands. You have to identify aspects of the task that affect the complexity of the problem. So you have to know that the child is sufficiently prepared because you want success. Success breeds success breeds success. You cannot mark a child's paper every day. Wrong, 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 and no intervention. You cannot do that, or you shouldn't do that. Okay? Then you have to have appropriate representation of the concepts. If I were, tell me something, anybody, if you have already taught area, how would you teach volume or capacity or whatever you call it? What would you say to a class that you think they've gotten the skill to find the area, right? What would you say to the class when you're going that day where you expect to teach, what do you call it, capacity or volume? Anybody? Anybody?
I think you start off by letting them know that it's just one step further than what we did previously with the area.
Very good, very good. Because you know what you're saying to the child? What you're saying to the child when you tell them that?
You're telling them that you already know how to do this. You
Yes,
already
I don't say to such a voice, I get excited. I said, you know what? We are going to do something today. And you know more than half of what we are going to be doing. Right? You know more than half. Because all I'm doing, and I would have this flat piece of paper, and I would say, or a flat piece of cardboard, or I would have some box that I open, right, and fold up the sides. I say, you know, everything about the base. We are ready to go, right? We are ready to go because only one step more. Thank you, Bermuda. Thank you. Yes.
My daughter and I actually just did a volume last week.
Do what?
My daughter and I actually just did volume last week. She had it in her homework. Yeah.
There we go. Because the child did not come in there as a blank slate, right? The child did not come in as a blank slate. And then the child just smiled and said, this is not going to be a task where I'm blank. I have something to offer already. So estimation is good, right? And then you can go into some exercise where it doesn't cost that much for them to make a box out of a sheet of paper. Everybody knows how to do that. Everybody knows how to make a box out of this? An open box? Excuse me? You just fold it and tear it. You just take out the same amount. You take out 4 squares or something at the corners, right? You take out 4 squares and this and fold it up. Well, they have scissors, but I'm doing tearing for want of some scissors, right? And if I fold this up, do you see the box coming? Do you see the box coming?
Right.
Eh? Oh, do you see the box coming? St. Lucia? Do you see the box coming? You see it?
I see
do you see it? Just cut out the same amount. If you don't cut out the same amount here, they won't meet. Yeah? It won't meet. And then you can go into all kinds of stuff now. Because you can say, what if I have this piece of paper, or this piece of zinc, or this piece of board, and I want to make a box out of it, what's the maximum volume I can get? How are we going to change the volume of this after I've done this already? Can you see this? Can you see this piece of paper?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I got a square out of the side, each side. And then I folded it along the crease. And you can do it too. And then you get an open face box, right? And then, what's the maximum volume? Say that, you know, this was 10, so make this 8. I'm hoping to take, I've taken out an inch, right? And this is 8, so this should be about 6, right? So now I have a 6 by 8 by 1, right?
Right.
So now, are we multiplying? Are we multiplying?
Right.
But they knew this from yesterday. So all they have to do now is one more thing. Multiply by the height. And another thing. Children get discouraged when they are not successful. Make it the easiest example after you have given out the basic information. So we say, aha. So now for the challenge, we could tear out something twice as much. We could tear out a 2-inch square from the corners, right? So now 2 inches from this side and 2 inches from this side. Now my length would be, if this is 10, right? It would be 8. 8 times 2 from this side. Yes, yes. If you take out 2 inches from here and 2 inches from here, you have shot the side by 4 inches. 6, right? So do you see that they're hands-on? You can afford the paper. Go, and now teachers can collect trash. They can go to the computer room or the whatever room and get the thing out of the trash can. You can go there and get stuff out of the trash can. And you come in and you have something for everybody to work with. Another way, when students experience things and they have something to do, if their hands are doing something, sometimes their brains follow, right? So you have to know what is the task you're going to use to do this one little step beyond area. Do we see that? Okay, so now the knowledge of resources is the same thing. Some people's trash should be your treasure. And you know what? There is a feeling in Jamaica, and I don't know if it's in the islands, but teachers believe that when you get to high school, no more manipulatives. No more manipulatives. I hope none of you believe that. I took manipulatives to UE when we were doing rotations and changing, you know, of so many degrees and stuff like that, to show people, you know, how the angles get changed to other things. And people said, oh, oh. And when I was making the stuff, somebody said, but you're teaching at UE? And I said, so? Because these things that students are doing, they do not get any help in the wider society. So we have to make it so that they're interested, because where else are you going to be talking about volume? In grade school, but in the classroom. But you can show them how this can reach maximum volume, and the bigger you take out, the shorter the length and the width becomes. And you appreciate that you can take a ruler and measure it, because if you take out 1 inch here and you take out 1 inch here, you are going to reduce the original length by 2 inches. And some students do not appreciate that. Do we understand? So give them stuff. The other thing is that you knowledge of resources. You cannot find all the resources you need when you make up your lesson plan beside your partner with a flashlight in the bed at 4:30 in the morning to teach at 8 o'clock. The kids are being shortchanged. The kids are being shortchanged. Okay, so here we want you to think about your lesson, find something to which it can be applied. You can take a walk and let them guess, You can take a walk out of your classroom. I don't see this beautiful, beautiful, everlasting sunshine, except when it's raining. You can go outside and you can make angles out of tree branches. You can make it out of sticks. You can estimate, and you're not going to lose any arm. You're not going to lose an eye or a leg if you are 2 inches off or if you're 20 degrees off. But we sit down in the classroom and we do not use the outside. We can use the outside. You can look around. Look how many right angles are in here. You know, look at how many right angles. So perspective-wise, draw me a right triangle. Draw me a 45 degree. And you'll point out that the 45 degree, right, is half of the 90 degrees. But I see a lot of 90-degree angles all over the place. I see a lot of parallel lines in here. Do you? Parallel segments. Do we see that? It's all around us. But so we just don't stay on the book, page 94. Do we understand that? You must get the kids to get to the point of conceptual understanding. Who knows why we invert fractions when we are dividing two fractions to explain it to the student? Who knows that?
Yes, we invert.
You write the first fraction and flip.
Yeah.
That's what they tell students. And sometimes they don't know, you know, what it is. Why is the justification for that? What's the justification, Caribbean? You're going to bring it back the next class. Yes, because the thing about us is that we learn some cliche stuff and the kids get it, but it's still not conceptual understanding. It's procedural. And don't get me wrong, we can never do without procedural understanding. We cannot do without it because everything boils down to algebra or some kind of computation, and we have to know what to do. But we don't have any justification. It's something floating out there in the atmosphere, and they say I'm to do it and I'm to do it. And the Lord help you if you're in an exam and you forget. Do we see that? When we are working with the special triangles, what are the special triangles that we have in trig? What are the special? No, triangles.
It's a triangle. Oh, I saw some.
What are the special triangles that we have in trig? Anybody?
Isosceles?
That's not trig. Say that again. Trig deals with right triangles initially, and I don't know where you do that. Where you do that? CXE?
Grade 10 or 11.
Grade 10 or 11, right? Have anybody heard of SOHCAHTOA? That's it. It's right triangles, right? Yes. But what are the special ones?
The name Toyota or something like that.
What are the special ones? No, triangle. Tan is a trigonometric function.
Right.
Yes, but what I'm saying, what are the special right triangles that we deal with? The ones that we always beat to death. Yes. I'm listening.
Is it Pythagorean theorem talking? 3, 4, 5, those things?
3, 4, 5 is one of them, but that is Pythagoras. I'm talking about trig, because trig deal with angles, right? That are the 30, 60, 90, and the 45, 45.
Oh, that one. Oh,
right?
yes.
So everybody draw a triangle. If the 45, 45 must be isosceles right. So draw that, sketch that on your book. Sketch that on your book.
Yeah, so it's 45, 45, and what? 90.
And 90. Do we see that? Label the triangle ABC. Label the triangle ABC. Make the A one of the acute angles. Make the B at the 90-degree angle and C at the other angle. So B is at the 90-degree angle, that vertex. Okay? Now, if it's 45, 45, it turns out to be what kind of triangle?
Isosceles right.
Isosceles right triangle. Because you can have a lot of isosceles triangles, right? Isosceles right. So then, AB must be equal to BC. So the thing is, we can label that as a special triangle because if we make it 1, because we deal with the unit circle, right? If we make it 1 or x, it's fine. But the legs AB and BC are the same length. right? So if we make it 1 each, then what is the hypotenuse?
If A, B, and B, C are 1 each?
Yes. Pythagoras.
Square root of 2.
Right. So then the cosine of the angle is going to be what? The cosine of one of the 45-degree angle is going to be what? Cosine is equal to the sine, yes, in 45. So it's 1 over root 2, right? 1 over root 2. And if we rationalize, we get root 2 over 2. We get root 2 over 2, right? So we know forever and yea that the sine of 45 is root 2 over 2, and the cosine of 45 is root 2 over 2. They're the same thing. Then we have another triangle. You can write this down. It's 30-60. So what is the shortest side? What side is facing the 30-degree angle comparison-wise in terms of length? It must be the shortest side, right? Yes. So we have the shortest side opposite to the 30-degree angle. We have, and you know the hypotenuse is always longer than any other sides, right? So the side facing the 60-degree angle
is the shortest side.
No, the side facing the 30-degree angle is going to be the shortest. But it turns out that the side opposite to the 30-degree angle can be labeled 1, and the side opposite to the 60-degree angle is root 3, and the hypotenuse is 2. Those are two special triangles that the whole earth needs to work with. The whole earth needs to work with that. Okay? So you have to have a profound understanding of the fundamental mathematics. And that is fundamental to the trig functions: sine, cosine, tangent, and the reciprocals are cosec, secant, and cotangent. Okay? You have to have an understanding of it so that you can impart it to the student. You exhibit a deep and thorough conceptual understanding of identified aspects of mathematics. You must come equipped. Okay? Now, you must mention the key components for them to get the understanding of the lesson. You cannot half step. You must know that for factoring quadratics, we have how many ways we can factor quadratics. We can find out what the roots are. We can complete the square. We can factor. We can factor it into 2 binomials, right? And we can use the quadratic formula.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that is highly procedural. Highly procedural. But what would be if we wanted to factor quadratics? I'm assuming that all of these people are high school teachers. Yes?
Mm.
What is a key component in factoring quadratics? Not using the quadratic formula or computing the square.
Factorization.
Factorization. But it has something to do with a key component. A key component. Because we have to factor, right? We have to factor. What is the time? What is it when we have to something that you have to teach? The key component in that. You have to have like terms, but when what property is involved in that? It starts with a D. What property? Is a property. Division is an operation. Distributive. You have to factor out something, right? But if you have a negative sign, right, Then once you introduce the parentheses, you have to change the sign. So that is a key component. So you have to know the key component for the person to get the idea as to how to be successful. Do you see that? Can you see these things in your minds as I talk about them?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see them? St. Lucia, can you see these things? St. Lucia?
Yes, we can. We discussed them on ourselves.
So you have to know the key components of the lesson, because if you're working with all additions and all positive terms, right, you don't have to worry about it. But a key component, because it causes a change. Do we see that, class?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Make connections. Make connections. Like, for instance, if we go back to this, right, you can expand on the idea, right? You can expand on the idea. You can talk about material. You can talk about decorating the box. You can talk about, you know, and set up scenarios where the person have to find out how much it would cost to change the color of this box to one other color, like red. Or if you're going to pack oranges in it, you're going to have oranges. You probably don't put all oranges, probably you put the leaf and stuff like that. Does it cost more to use different colors? Does it? All of these, and you're still doing mathematics. But the books are not written in that way. So you have to get creative. Do we understand? Did you understand the key component to the factoring of the quadratic? Whenever you're distributing and you have a negative outside, you have to introduce, if you're factoring out something, you have to introduce a parentheses, and the sign in the parentheses has to change. Okay? Key components. So, what?
I'm saying I need to go back in my secondary school math.
Mathematical structure and connections, we can use this all day long. We can make connections and search your brain, do some research, go somewhere on internet, because there's everything there. They discuss the weirdest and the most helpful of concepts, and you go there, right? Methods of solution. If you are one-tracked mind and a student, you want a number, and a student give you a picture, what you going to do with it? Anybody?
You're going to relate it to a number?
Yes, but you can ask a question. But I'm not going to say, I don't want this answer. Do you see that? So you can say, no, you can agree with it. You can agree with it because it's correct. It's correct, right? But the thing about it is that you do not say to a student, this is the only way you can do it, because that is in the book and you don't understand it yourself. So therefore, you're going to stick with the book because you cannot turn left or right of the book. We call that being shackled to the text. We call that being shackled to the text. If it's not exact, you know, I was looking at a person, and I won't call the school's name, but the teacher had two numbers in our mind, and it was supposed to be a fraction where you have a small number over a considerably large number. All she did was to memorize the number because they were doing it on the board together, and the students had to do the final step. And the boy had the text, the thing turned around. But she just remembered two numbers, and she saw the two numbers, didn't care about where they were placed. And she gave him a check on the book that filled the book. And I was sitting at the back of the class, and the boy came to me and said, Miss, I got a tick. I got a tick. But you know, there's some disappointment ahead, because that was not the answer. That was not the answer. So we have to know core, we have to know key concepts, we have to clear up misconceptions, right? We have to probe or question in. This, you know, this is correct. This, what you have done here is correct. But you showed me in a picture now. What is the picture saying to you, right? Do you consider such and such? and keep the student engaged.
Like ask them questions, you know, ask them.
Keep the student engaged, because that is how children learn. Or if you're using group work, you can say to them, by the time we're finished here, I'm going to ask anybody how to get the answer. You know what they're doing now? They're talking among themselves because they don't know who will be the candidate. They're talking among themselves, and they might use harsh language, which we are not allowed to use. But what is the stupidity, see this, that? You know, that kind of a thing. And students learn. Because they have social capital, and they don't want to spend it where it puts them in a negative light. And you know, students, they want to keep a face. They want to keep the face. And so therefore, they will listen. Sometimes you have to kind of curb on the language, because these people are not carefronting, they're confronting. And so they don't care so much. But you can learn, students can learn in a group. But the group is not to be formed by, all right, get in groups of 3. What is going to happen? Anybody? If I say get in groups of 3, what is going to happen?
Find the friends.
All right. So you know the solution already. You take the time out of class. And when you're giving like manipulatives, let everybody have their own page to tear. Do we see that? Everybody has their own page to tear, because give it to me. No, I'm doing it. You know, that kind of thing. And you have some people I call drivers, and you have some people I call riders, right? The drivers go about doing this task, and they take it, and they have the pencil, and they have the one manipulative that you give to the group, and the other person relaxes. Do we see that? So those are the things. You must know what it takes. You must see that they're equipped. You must know the core. You must know how to break it down. You must be able to probe when you see a misconception. So what you have to do, you have to discuss and address the student misconceptions. You have to identify aspects of the task that affects its complexity, like the negative sign. You have to describe or demonstrate ways or models to illustrate a concept. So the person can give me a picture, and if they haven't yet arrived at the number, you can talk them through, you can get somebody to help them, you can do whatever, but you keep them engaged. Okay.
We have to ensure that we would grasp it before we go on.
Exactly.
We don't know about.
All right.
I have a little cousin who's autistic, and he is so in love with moon and lunar. He knows about lunar eclipse, solar. He just loves those things.
Right.
And you know, there was one night full moon, and I just, you know, he knows a little bit about math, and his bigger brother talks about something he saw in math about math. They have some kind of thing about MATH, something about the human brain. Some bad thing they have to say about math, right? In the form of acronyms. And I just called him and I'm like, hey, come here. It's full moon, so you know it's all circular. What's the circumference if the diameter? And I just started, you know? Mm-hmm.
But the thing about it is we have that responsibility because we set the stage. We set the stage, right? No. We have to have goals for their learning. We have to have goals. We have goals, but we do not have the pedagogical skills to deliver. We'll never make the goals. Okay? We have to describe the goal for the student so we know where they're going. How many people like to be on a bus and don't know where the bus is going? How many people like to be on a bus and don't know where the bus is going?
Nobody.
So what I want my teachers to do is to make sure that our kids know that today we are going to be working on how many things this thing can hold. Do we see that? That is what we're talking about. Capacity is the same multiplication that we call volume. Do we see that? So the thing is, if we put it in their terms, and then if we have like blocks and we cut out enough for the height of the block, we can see how many blocks can fill this thing, right? And they will get a visual perspective on what is volume. Do we see that?
Yeah.
All right. You have to know about conceptual understanding. So you have to be able to break it down, right? And you have to rock your brains rather than talking about this one come from family named Brown and that girl was so bright and her brother has no use. Get to the teacher. See what it is that how they have success. See what you can pill for brains. You know what it is to pill for brains? You are having success over there. Tell me what you did to get this success. That's legal. That's legal. But sometimes teachers have a secrecy. They don't want anybody to know that they don't know. Wrong move. Pill for brains, you know, and say such and such, such and such. And that is why they introduced the new the revised primary curriculum. Discuss generic classroom practices. If you are there, and in Jamaica, they don't give you any time to reach your classes if you have to change rooms.
Yeah.
This
session ends at 8:30.
At 8:30. Yes, they don't do that. Do you do that in the Caribbean? Hello?
When I was in school, we didn't have much time either, no.
I think you should have about between 5 and 3 minutes to get to classes. Because
we don't do that.
What you do?
We don't give time to get we don't have a time slated to get to another.
So you move around to the students.
Well, the students, let's say a class starts at 8:30 and it ends at 9:10. We don't give like a 5-minute break to run around to get to the next class. The next class starts. We go to them most times. Sometimes they have to shift depending on which class. For example, in the IT lab, they would have to walk across to the class. So it's actually class time that they're missing. It's not like a break to get to class. Right?
That's correct. But we need that. We need that.
So therefore, the time start for class, you cancel each other 10 minutes.
In between
Yeah,
classes.
so that they, once they get there within that 10 minutes, you know that you don't last.
You lose some time, and this one don't have a pencil, and that one don't do that, and that one don't do that. So the thing is that we lose a lot of academic learning time. We lose a lot of academic learning time. And so, I don't know, that is not in our hands as teachers, because, you know, it's the administration that plans the schedule.
I know this is so, like but what do you do when you have very talkative students? Like, they will just talk, you're there and you're trying to, get the class.
Well, you have to. The thing is,
facilitate that via some conversation.
Well, listen, what I do sometimes is have what I call a warm-up activity, and I do not see this very much in the Jamaican classroom. But what I do, like if I'm doing, decimal percents and fraction, I will have cards as they come in, or as I go in your case, as you go in, and hand them out. They can move around and they can talk, but they're looking for their match. So they're making noise, they're moving, but they're looking for their match. Do you see that? So what do you have? What do you have? They're talking, but that will say to you, they're talking, but they're talking your language. Right? So if I bring that, then if you have 0.75, I must have 3/4, right? Yeah. So you're hunting and you're talking. And so when they find a match, you go over to that, you stand up there. Then you can get them lined up by size. Are we doing any math here?
Yes, we got a
lot. Are we doing any math here?
I have a question to ask you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have mentioned earlier that we should discuss student misconception.
Yes.
And I remember one time, one teacher told me that if the student said something wrong, I should never repeat it in class because it's like I'm reinforcing the bad concepts. Oh, how do I adjust that now? Because if we're supposed to discuss it, we would have to repeat the wrong negative part.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily. Sometimes, if you say the person is wrong, a lot of times they drop a curtain. They just close down, they shut down. But if you say, maybe, anybody else want to contribute? Anybody else want to contribute? And the person,
Sorry, go ahead, sorry.
yes, if the person, somebody's going to contribute now and is going to present a different point of view, you know, based on their response to the same question, that child will know that they missed the mark, but the child was not locked out of a conversation. So I don't have to say, how do you get that or whatever. I could just go to another and say, maybe, and so on. Why do you say that, you know, to the person, and I still keep the child engaged? Do you see that?
So it's like you ignore her comment.
Ignore her, but I tell her she was wrong. I went to, anybody would like to make a comment on this question?
So you tell her that she's wrong. That's what she said.
No.
What did you?
She doesn't get the rest of the class.
Huh?
She's asking other students if they have the comment.
Oh, so you would never answer her question then? For example, suppose for example the child says 2 + 2 = 5, and you know it's wrong. What should I do now?
Anybody else have another answer? That's what I said. Anybody else? Did you get 5? Did you get 5? You know, that kind of thing. I said, I got 4. I said, well, can you illustrate how you got 4? And probably the child will go up to the board and put 4 sticks on there. 2 stick and 2 stick and get 4. That child, you don't tear that person down. They just know that something was amiss. So the thing about it is, yes, and yes, so you can move from that child and encourage another person to give input. You didn't say wrong, you didn't say right.
Okay.
So that person could go, or you could, if it's 2 + 2 or anything, if it's like primary grades, you could pick up stones outside. You have them as manipulatives that they can use. And if you give somebody manipulatives, like I know in algebra, using algebra tiles. Everybody accustomed to algebra tiles?
Yeah.
Algebra tiles, St. Lucia? Have you used algebra tiles, St. Lucia? They're not hearing me. We're going to stop for today. But algebra tiles, everybody can make their own supply. Everybody.
One quick question for you. Can we get your email address for those of us that don't have it?
Yes, because I sent out emails. Some people got emails already. It is, I'm going to spell it out.
Okay.
B as in boy, E as in Everton, V as in Vernon, red as in the color, Hills, HILLS, @gmail.com. But some people have mine already because you didn't get anything from me and I didn't get the new roster. BevRedHills@gmail.com. And I'll be sending you some stuff before next class.
All right. I'll probably send you an email this evening or tomorrow identifying myself so you can add my email to your list.
Okay, good. Great.
So you are BEVRED?
Bev Red Hills. Yeah.
Hills. I live in Red Hills and my middle name is Bev.
Okay.
I still would want you to be teaching because we're not sure. We have to come. Well, I think we have to come.
I live at Sterling Castle.
I think we should tell her we don't get it.
Hi, Dr. Nelson.
Yes.
On Monday it's an independence holiday in St. Lucia.
Okay.
So does it mean that we still have to be at class here on Monday?
Well, you know, we're going to have some conflicts, but I think you should take your holiday. The thing is that
840.
we are going to be taping the session, so anything you miss, anything you miss. And probably now that I hear the sessions can be taped, I can take a session and leave for one of the days that I'm going to be absent.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll get next week.
So we will get on Monday session taped for us.
Yes.
It will be sent.
So happy Independence, St. Lucia.
Thank you.
All right, people.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.